SB number 17 by Colcourse, relating to the purchase of or acquisition of title to real property by certain aliens or foreign entities.
Chair recognizes Mr. Hefner to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, Senate Bill 17 is the strongest, most comprehensive, and broad law in the nation that protects us from hostile foreign ownership of our land. We have an obligation to protect our people, our food supply, and our supply chain. Members, Senate Bill 17 is about securing Texas land and natural resources and making sure that this precious resource does not fall prey to adversarial nations and oppressive regimes that wish to do us harm. Our adversaries speak loudly and often about their ambitions and motivations to break our country and its citizens, and the many strategies they will employ in an effort to do so. My constituents, your constituents, and the state of Texas will not allow this to happen. My primary motivation for bringing this bill forward are my constituents. Like many of you, I've had numerous conversations with the folks from my district and heard their rightful concerns about hostile adversaries controlling our land, our food supply, and our supply chains. Ceding control of Texas land, crops, energy deposits, rare earth materials, and water to our adversaries would bring about grave consequences for America's national security. Senate Bill 17 provides thoughtful and common sense protections that will preserve and protect these resources. Senate Bill 17 enacts a prohibition on purchasing or acquiring interest in real property for entities or individuals affiliated with countries designated as hostile adversarial nations. Designated countries are those countries that appear in at least one of the three most recent annual threat assessment lists that is produced by the United States Director of National Intelligence. Countries on this list have demonstrated their desire to harm this country and present a significant national security risk. In the 2025 annual threat assessment, only 4 state actors are named as threats: Russia, North Korea, China, and Iran. It is important to note that in North Korea and China, all land is owned by the state or communist collectives. In Russia and Iran, private property rights are curtailed and subject to seizure by the state. In all 4 named countries, Americans cannot buy land, and only in Russia can Americans buy residences in specific regions. United States citizens and legal permanent residents and companies or organizations under the control of United States citizens or legal permanent residents are not subject to the prohibition articulated in this bill. Senate Bill 17 prohibits governments of designated countries and companies with direct ties to these countries from purchasing or acquiring property in our state. It also prohibits individuals who ally themselves with these hostile countries from purchasing property. Under this bill, an individual will be prohibited from purchasing property in our state if they continue to associate themselves with a country that is hostile to our interest. Senate Bill 17 gives the Attorney General the authority to conduct investigations into prohibited purchases, and if the office finds that a violation has occurred, to take those findings to district court. If the court finds that a prohibited purchase has occurred, the ownership interest of the prohibited party will be divested. I want to take a moment to make something very clear. Senate Bill 17 does not base a property acquisition prohibition on any immutable characteristics, but rather on an entity or individual's action or inaction to sever ties with oppressive regimes or their affiliations to those who wish to do us harm. This bill is carefully crafted to ensure that the rights of Texans and lawful permanent residents of the United States are not infringed. A legislative effort of this nature must be made in good faith, and I'm proud of the work that we have done to ensure that in this case. Private property rights are a foundational cornerstone of the American dream. We have to be careful how we craft legislation when limiting those rights. Senate Bill 17 thoughtfully strikes a balance by exercising appropriate police powers reserved for the state within the bounds of the Texas and United States Constitutions. It prevents entities and individuals with a direct line to governments that are hostile to the United States from purchasing property in this state. There should be no questions about the due process provided to persons subject to this bill. Whether civil or criminal, the bill provides for notice and a neutral hearing before a judge. Due process is crucial to our constitutional republic and must be part of this solution. Members, the safety of our fellow Texans and the sovereignty of our state are the foundation of what we do. We must not allow oppressive regimes who actively seek to do us harm to seize control and dictate their terms over our economy, supply chain, and our daily lives. I believe that this should not be an issue that divides us politically, but instead unites us as Texans. I appreciate your concerns, your consideration.
Mr. Wu, for what purpose?
Will the gentleman yield for questions?
Would you yield, Mr. Hefner?
Yes, I yield.
He will.
Mr. Hefner, I appreciate your intent in this bill in dealing with national security and dealing with the actions of hostile foreign governments. And that is your intent, to deal with the hostile foreign governments, correct?
It's the hostile foreign governments and those that affiliate themselves with those hostile foreign governments.
What does affiliate mean? What is your
Well,
definition of that in this bill?
Well, those that would,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Is affiliate defined in your bill?
Yes.
Can you tell me where? Your definitions start on page 2. Is there a term that is defined in your bill that is, quote, affiliates, affiliated?
Well, it would be, I'm looking for, where's my questions? So it'd be, I mean, there's, golly, where is that thing?
Take your time.
Let me see what. Affiliation is defined in the prohibitions. Persons who are agents of hostile governments or affiliated.
Okay. Again, what does affiliated mean?
I don't have the dictionary
No, in your
definition of
bill.
affiliated in front of me.
I'm sorry, this is, I mean, we're writing law here that is going to be enforced by the Attorney General. And you're saying that these people are affiliated with this country. I understand what agent means. Registered agents are defined in federal statute and in state statute. What is affiliated?
Well, the bill applies to an individual who is domiciled in a designated country, a citizen of a designated country who is domiciled outside of the United States in a country.
Is that what affiliated means?
I don't know that affiliated is specifically defined in the bill, but I think it would be the general definition of affiliated. Just read that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the undefined terms that are unambiguous will be given their plain and ordinary meaning.
Well,
So-
that's kind of the problem, is affiliated could be anything.
Well, and what we've done is we've given the Attorney General pretty broad authority and freedom to investigate these
But
possible
I'm sorry, but
deals.
Before
So
we even get to the Attorney General, there is a restriction, right? This bill creates a restriction of people's rights that they can exercise. Is that correct?
if the bill applies to them, yes.
And that's what we're trying to get to. So this bill has a restriction on their rights before it even gets to the Attorney General. They're restrained from
No.
exercising their rights.
No. It would be determined after a purchase has been made. If it is suspected that that purchase is not a legal purchase, then there would be a process by which that a complaint would be brought, an investigation would ensue, and then they would take it from there of how far, depending on the facts of the case and where that would lead them.
And so your intent is that people should be encouraged to purchase whatever property they want, and then the Attorney General investigates them, and then if the Attorney General decides that they can't have it, then the state is going to take the land from them. Or would you believe that your bill should say, if you fall into this class, you are prohibited from buying land, because if you do buy land, we will take it from you?
If you are subject to this bill, and it's spelled out on page 4, the individuals and the companies who are subject to this bill, and you purchase land in this state under these provisions, then you have made an illegal purchase. And there will be a process that will begin with an intake portal and an investigation and a hearing in district court,
Now-
appointment of a receiver, and a divestiture process.
So just as a thought exercise, if you have something that's illegal in your pocket, is that illegal when you have it, or is it only illegal after you're prosecuted?
I don't know how that has anything to do with this bill.
Well, see, the problem is your bill says that these people that fall under this class are restrained from exercising a right that they currently have. And if you exercise that right anyways, then the Attorney General will come take it back from you. Fair?
If you are prohibited under this bill,
Correct.
yes.
So this is a prohibition. Before the Attorney General even gets involved, it is a prohibition, correct?
No.
So are you saying right now that this bill, if people go purchase property that fall into that class, they're perfectly fine, even if the Attorney General does not investigate them?
The whole way the bill works, Representative Wu, is that a complaint has to be brought to the Attorney General, and then the process is followed from there. So there would have to be a complaint, there would have to be probable cause, there would have to be evidence, and the whole due process system would play out.
So right now, I think you're like splitting hairs a little bit here, but this bill says point blank that if you fall into this class, you are prohibited from purchasing land of any class that's listed, or any property that's listed. It's not just land, it's also mineral rights and water rights and timber rights. You are prohibited from doing those things, and if you take a prohibited action, such as purchasing these things, the Attorney General will act, or under investigation, or somebody will
If
report.
you are subject to this bill, as outlined in the bill, and you make an illegal purchase under this bill, the purchase would be illegal, then yes, there will be a investigation and a complaint and a divestiture process, and the land will be divested.
Now, when you said you used the DNI list, the Director of National Intelligence Annual Threat Assessment, why that list?
Well, it's just, it's a common list that's referred to by the federal government as countries that have been designated as hostile to the United States and the well-being of our citizens. I mean, it's just well established.
Now, of the 16 states who have passed a law similar to Texas, there are only 2 other states that use this list. Most other states, including Indiana, most other states use the ITAR list, the International Trafficking in Arms Regulation list that the federal government carries, which would include countries like Belarus, Burma, Cuba, Syria, and Venezuela. Why not that list? That's the actual sanctions list.
We felt this was the best, most accurate list to refer to.
Why not a list that's used by Wisconsin, Oklahoma, North Dakota, Iowa, Idaho?
Because Texas is better.
Sorry,
we're going to do it our way.
That all foreign entities are prohibited. Why not prohibit all foreign entities from purchasing land in our state, like those states?
Well, no countries are singled out in the bill.
The bill does not single out, but you understand the
But you're saying
application
why
of the
not
DNI
ban all
list
countries?
lists countries, right? But just like when this legislature passed these same laws 100 years ago, they did not list out Japanese Americans and Chinese Americans. They just said people who are ineligible for citizenship, because the United States government only passed one law that banned two groups of people from becoming citizens: Chinese people and Japanese people. This bill is doing the same thing, is it not?
No, it has nothing to do with your immutable characteristics. None.
Is your place of birth an immutable characteristic?
This bill is based on people's actions or inactions and their affiliations,
And where
not
they
their
were,
national origin.
where they were born, where they live, where they're a citizen of,
Where
has
they're a
nothing-
citizen of, and where they may be domiciled, yes, but that has nothing to do with their nationality or their immutable characteristics. It has to do with whether or not they have severed ties with these hostile regimes.
If someone is born in a country, do they have a choice about whether they are a citizen of that country?
Yes, once they're an adult, they can start the process to become a citizen of another country, to become a naturalized citizen. Happens all the time.
Yeah. Most people would come to the United States to start that process, right?
Correct.
Okay. Except that those people now would be banned from buying land under your bill.
Not if they come here the right way, and they have severed ties with a hostile foreign government
How do they sever ties?
by beginning the citizenship process.
But you understand they
Or a
can't
work
begin.
visa, or a way to come here legally, a way to show that they're disassociating with a hostile government.
Do you understand that your bill also affects lawful immigrants? It says it in your bill.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Your bill affects the rights of lawful immigrants. Not undocumented, not illegal, but lawful immigrants approved by the United States government to be here. In fact, invited here to the United States often.
No, I don't believe that's correct, Representative Wu.
Mr. Hefner, I'm not sure if you understand your own bill, but you understand that the way this bill is written, while you have carved out green card holders and citizens, you have left the entire class of visa holders.
This bill does not apply to lawful permanent residents.
It does not. I just said that. But it does apply to visa holders, including people who are studying, people who here have coming for work and have been here for decades, including people who are invited here under the EB-5 visa program to invest in our state. You understand that, right?
To my understanding, if they are here lawfully, then this bill would not apply.
You understand that your bill does not do that, right? Do you understand what your bill does?
Yes?
But you understand, like, lawyers after lawyers have looked at this and say, at most, absolutely 100% affects visa holders.
I don't believe it does.
Okay. If you're not open to these other assortments, Montana and Tennessee, they use the active sanctions list kept by the Office of Foreign Assets Control in the federal government. Literally, the list of countries that we are currently sanctioning for being hostile to us. Why not use that list?
I'm not really concerned with what Tennessee and other states do. I'm concerned with what Texas is going to do.
This is what the federal government is doing. The list, called the Federal Active Sanctions List, is held and maintained by the United States government in relation to other countries, dealing with countries that are actively hostile to us, and the United States feels the need to actively sanction them.
Representative Wu, we felt the National Threat Assessment List established by the Director of National Intelligence was the appropriate list of countries that we needed to refer to.
So is there any specific reason why that list and not any of these other
I
lists?
just answered the question.
Okay. If a person is prohibited from buying land, they're afraid the Attorney General is going to come get them. because they have purchased it against this bill, against this law that you're trying to pass. And do they have to do anything before that? Do they have to commit any kind of crime? Do they have to commit any violations? Do they have to be convicted of anything?
If they purchase land in violation of this bill, then there is a process by which an investigation will take place, and if the facts so prove, divestiture will take place.
And the basis of that divestiture is that A, they are a citizen of one of the countries that you have listed. I think that's it. Right? They are a citizen of that country, they're domiciled in that country, and that is the reason why their land is now being taken from them. Is that correct?
Their land has been taken from them because they have not disassociated or unaffiliated with a hostile foreign government, and they have bought property in this state in violation of this law.
Do you understand that one of the key markers of whether or not you're granted a green card to be allowed to be a permanent resident, which you need to be in order to become a citizen?
The gentleman's time has expired.
Speaker, I move to extend the time.
There is a motion to extend time. Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. The time is extended.
In your bill, the requirements to have the Attorney General come and take land away, the requirement is that this person purchase it against this law. And this law says you could not have purchased land because you are domiciled in one of these countries. And you're a citizen, you're domiciled in one of these countries, correct?
Correct.
That is the entirety of it. That is
No,
the entirety.
that is not the entirety of it. There's a whole section here, Representative Wu. An individual who is domiciled in a designated country is a citizen of a designated country who is domiciled outside of the United States in a country other than a designated country, and for which the individual has not completed the naturalization process for becoming a citizen of that country. It applies to a person who is a citizen of a designated country who is unlawfully present in the United States.
You understand that definition, that very definition that you just read, would include every single visa holder in the United States.
Are visa holders in the United States lawfully or unlawfully?
Lawfully.
This
That's
says
what a visa is.
unlawfully present in the United States.
That's what a visa is. It is lawful permission to be here.
It does not apply to them if they are a lawful legal permanent resident.
In the definition you just read, an individual who is domiciled, who is a citizen of a designated country, who is domiciled outside the United States, where does the word lawfully present appear in there?
In the exceptions section of the bill, it says an individual who is a citizen or lawful permanent resident of the United States.
Yes, visa holders are neither permanent residents.
I believe they are.
I'm sorry? Visa holders are permanent residents? Is that correct?
Is this right here? This bill exempts lawful permanent residents.
Explain to me visa holders.
Visa holders? I don't have that term in the bill.
And I am telling you right now, your definition, I understand you're not an attorney, okay? I'm telling you that an individual who is domiciled in a designated country, who is domiciled somewhere else, that is every single visa holder. People who have been here, people who were invited here to come work for UT, to be in the labs, to be teaching, to do all these different things, all of them are F1 visa holders. Many of them have been here for decades. They are domiciled legally in another country because as a visa holder, you are not allowed to legally say you are domiciled in the United States.
Are they not a legal permanent resident?
Those are not
been here
permanent
for
residents. You have to apply for permanent residency. In fact, that's the problem, because in order to apply for permanent residency, you have to buy a house. You have to have a permanent home. And you're saying to the people, we want you to become a citizen, but you can't even get on the pathway to become a citizen because we're banning you from the thing that's going to allow you to get on the pathway. Do you understand that?
Look,
Do you want to pull your bill down and let me explain all this
sir,
stuff?
I do not.
Okay. I mean, I would just assume that you knew it because you never came and talked to me or anything. Let me ask you, do you believe that just because someone is domiciled in that other country, in one of the listed countries, that the fact that their domicile is listed there, that is where their originating home is, does that make them?
Mr. Wu, we have a whole stack of amendments that are going to be considered here today.
Can I finish
So
my question?
Why don't we have those conversations and see how these amendments work
Because
out?
I would like to ask you these questions right now.
Fire away.
Okay. Does the fact that someone is domiciled, they were born in that country, they have a home in that country, then they came to the United States, does the very fact that they are domiciled in that country make them a hostile foreign actor?
The way things work in these hostile foreign countries is they have a way of controlling their citizens. They don't live in a free society like we do here. The people who suffer the most under the heavy boot of the evil communist dictators are the people in those countries.
Absolutely.
And they use tactics to control those people. They hold their families ransom and hostage back home so that those people that are here will perform certain duties, collect evidence or information, espionage and other things, and go back to them.
Absolutely. And that, just like my family and just like Hubert Vaux's family, we fled those places and came here, often
Yes.
as refugees, often as visa holders.
Yes.
And we had to earn our way into a green card. Then we had to earn our way into a citizenship.
And
The
we want what we want to do here, represent my heart, my goal in this bill, and hopefully by the end of the day, we'll have a good bill that works for everybody. We have amendments and things to discuss. That's how this process works. We want people who want to escape the heavy boot of the communists, these evil
Absolutely.
dictators, and we want them to
100%.
be able to come here the right way, to come through the front door, through the legal process, and live the American dream.
Yep.
We absolutely do.
So let me ask you one more time. Given that there were refugees like me and many other people who came here to escape those conditions, do you believe that every immigrant who has a domicile back in that home country, do you believe that everyone who's coming over is a hostile foreign actor?
No.
No? Okay. That's what I want. That's all I want. That's all I wanted to say, that not every single person is not a hostile foreign actor. There's good people who come here, right? Okay.
Sure. If you could ask that question at the beginning, it
But-
would save a lot of time. Go ahead. I don't mean to be disrespectful. Please go ahead.
But your bill, because they're arriving as visa holders, whether they have temporary protected status, whether they're granted immigration visas, they are all visa holders until they become permanent residents.
I believe there may be an amendment to address that issue.
Okay. Now, as visa holders, they are now prohibited under your bill. Let's go moving time forward. They're prohibited under your bill from purchasing land.
I'm not sure that they are, but we do have an amendment that
Would you
may
take my
address
word
that
that
and
they
clarify
are?
that.
Please. Like in your bill, it's point blank. Right? And this law would restrict them from purchasing land because they are domiciled in another country and they have not had the time and the opportunity to undo that domicile, because they have not had a chance to become a permanent resident, because they have not had a chance to become a citizen yet. They are now restricted from buying a home, a commercial property, a business, farmland, or even owning mineral interest or water interest.
Again, we have some amendments to consider that may address some of your concerns.
Those restrictions, do they happen with any evidence that they've done something wrong? That, like, you think that they're a spy or a traitor? Does your bill require that?
This bill states plainly how this bill would apply to someone and what happens if it applies to them.
So just take the four corners of the bill as evidence. Right? The bill spells out everything we need, right?
We're not finished with the bill, Mr. Wu. We have amendments to
That's fair.
consider.
Does your bill talk about CFIUS at all? CFIUS.
I don't believe so.
Okay. Do you know that CFIUS is the the Federal Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, literally the group and agency that is tasked with figuring out whether land purchases by foreign actors are appropriate or not?
I'm fully aware of CFIUS, and I'm also aware that it's largely a volunteer process, and it lacks teeth, and it doesn't work. And so it's very slow, it's very tedious, there's holes in it. There are folks that have gotten by that process, and so instead of waiting on the federal government to fix anything, where Texas is going to do it. CFIUS is not sufficient.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Mr. Speaker, I raise a point of order against further consideration of CSSB 17 under Rule 4, Section 32, on the grounds that the background and purpose statement in the bill analysis is substantially and materially misleading.
Please bring your point of order forward, Mr. Wu.
Happy AAPI Heritage Month. I've been dreading this day for about 3 years now. I knew it would come one day. In the past 12 years in this body, we've fought against attacks on the Latino community, the Black community, Muslim community, LGBTQ community, and I had told my community, one day it will be us. I just didn't think it would be this soon. And I told my community that they needed to speak up. They had to get active, they had to get loud, and I think they tried. They came to y'all and told you that this stuff didn't make a whole lot of sense. That if you're concerned about national security, what does somebody buying a first home have anything to do with it? If you're worried about national security, if somebody's buying a little noodle shop as their first business, what does that have to do with national security? If somebody wants to buy a half-acre farmland so they can have a little ranch, how does that hurt anyone? Because those are the same things that my family did when we came here. I wanted to show you the picture of my house, my first house, the house my mom and dad bought for $60,000. It was a junker then, it's still a junker now. But it was our house. It was a little house, but it was our house. And we got that before we became citizens. While we were in the process of becoming Americans, we built that home. If we had not been allowed to have that home, probably wouldn't be here today. And our people from our community came and told you that this targets refugees, targets people who are lawfully here, and it would cover stuff that is already being done at the national level. Every visa holder that comes into this country is vetted. They are run through the process. Visas are denied all the time. And they came and they told you how this would hurt them personally. There were many, many people, people who are scientists, who are researchers, who are students, who are people who are here to make our state better, who told you this would directly affect me, that this would take away their ability to settle in this state and make a home here and start their pathway to citizenship. And they told you that again and again and again. But I guess maybe that was the point of this bill. Maybe that's the point of all the legislation like this that's being passed around the country. It is a loud and clear message that Asians don't belong in this country. What hurts us the most is that this has been done before. Why my community is so angry is that this exact thing has been done before. Done for the same reasons, using the same rhetoric, passing the same laws, and against the exact same communities. Back when this was the first alien land law, because that's what they titled it, the Alien Land Law. Back when this was first passed, they didn't say it about Chinese, they said it about Japanese. They said, oh, everybody knows if you're Japanese, even a drop of blood, then you can only be loyal to the emperor. Everybody knew that, it's common sense. And they started saying that just like every community that has been under attack, stuff is made up and people are demonized and confusion or misunderstanding about things are blown out of proportion. And we start attributing characteristics that you believe about some people to the entire community. So that in World War II, while we rounded up about 10,000 German nationals and Italian nationals, we rounded up 120,000 Japanese Americans. And I say Japanese Americans because 2/3 of them were American-born citizens. It didn't matter then, and it won't matter now. Back then, General John DeWitt famously said, a Jap's a Jap. It doesn't matter if he's a citizen or not. They're all suspect. They're all traitors and spies. And that is the way that our community is being viewed. People like my family who fled here to escape oppression, to escape starvation, to seek the American dream. You would take those families who want nothing to do with the home country and say, you're a spy for them. That's what this language says. That's what this legislation says. It says that every single person from one of these countries, just like Mr. Money said from the back, every single person is suspect no matter who they are. Every single person is a potential spy. Every single person is dangerous. There's a word for that. There's a word we use when we attribute to an entire population one characteristic, whether they actually have that characteristic or not. It's called racism. And some of you may be hearing people from my community using that word, because my community doesn't use that word very often. But they're using it now. Because now they see. Because in the past, I told them that they should go support African Americans, support Latinos, support other communities who are under attack. And they say, well, we don't understand racism. We don't get what the big deal is. They get it now. This bill, by the way, Mr. Money, you were asking me earlier why I was upset. This bill has no due process either. Mr. Hefner says that it has due process, but when you blanketly say an entire group of people do not have the same rights as others simply because of where they're from, there is no due process. Okay? When you create an in rem jurisdiction for this bill that I know you guys haven't read in the bill, it allows the Attorney General to attack the property, not go after the person who bought the property, but the property itself. Property doesn't hire lawyers. And you created a process where the Attorney General can just simply state that we believe that they are working with the government. In this bill, there is no standard of proof. Normally, in most civil actions, there is something that says what is the standard of proof for this case. There's nothing in here. There's nothing that says how much you have to prove it up, how reliable the evidence has to be, nothing. It's just, as Mr. Hefner said, the word of the Attorney General. The Attorney General in this case has extremely, extremely broad discretion. The fear isn't just about this legislation. For me, the fear is about the community as a whole. When notice I don't say Chinese American, I say Asian American because this will affect us all. The Taiwanese people who are up here that you eagerly clap for, their community would be under attack by this bill too. Because every time one of these bills passes, it says to the community, these people are a problem. These people are dangerous. You should watch out for these people. But the thing is, nobody around here knows the difference between Chinese and Taiwanese or Japanese and Vietnamese. When the attacks come, when the hate crimes start, it will be against all Asian, everybody with Asian face. Because we've seen it during COVID, when people are shouting anti-Chinese things, but they're beating up an old Vietnamese lady. They sucker punch the Korean man.
The gentleman's time has expired.
I urge you to vote no and vote against racism and discrimination.
Ms. Plessa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise this evening to express my deep opposition to Senate Bill 17. As the representative of one of the most diverse districts in Texas, a district that includes one of the largest and fastest growing Asian communities in the state, I must tell you plainly, this bill sends the wrong message. It carries dangerous unintended consequences and undermines the values that have made Texas the economic engine of this nation and the friendly state. SB 17 claims to address concerns about foreign land ownership and national security, but in its broad sweep, it fails to distinguish between foreign governments and the countless individuals and families, many from Asia, who have chosen Texas as their home, who have invested in our communities, who have opened businesses, created jobs, paid taxes, and raised their families here. Collin County is thriving today, not in spite of, but because of these families. Whether they come from India, China, Korea, Vietnam, Pakistan, Romania, or beyond, they came to Texas because we offered opportunity and freedom. Today, they are our doctors, right, Representative Shelley Luther? Our engineers, our teachers, our small business owners, our neighbors. Yet this bill risks casting a shadow over their presence, their investments, and their very belongings. Make no mistake, the language of SB 17 will not just be read in the pages of law books. It will echo across immigrant communities like mine. And what will they hear? You are not fully welcome here. You are not fully trusted here. We should be clear-eyed about what it means for Texas. It means a chilling effect on international investment, particularly from our allies in Asia, the allies we honored just this morning on this dais. It means families questioning whether their hard-earned dollars are safe here. It means young people wondering if Texas still values their dreams and contributions. I want to remind this body that our strength as Texans has always come from our ability to open doors, not slam them shut. If there are legitimate national security concerns, let's address them surgically. Let's focus on hostile foreign governments or strategic assets. But let's not paint with such a broad brush that we harm the very communities who have helped build the Texas miracle. Members, my constituents are watching. Asian American Texans across the state are watching, and they are hoping that we, their elected leaders, will stand up not for fear and suspicion, but for fairness and inclusion, and for the promise of Texas, the Texas miracle. Colleagues, I urge you to vote no on Senate Bill 17. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Hopper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, for the second session in a row, this body was charged by our voters to do one simple thing. Don't allow the enemies of our country to systematically buy up our most precious natural resource, the land under our feet that was bought by the blood of Texas patriots. I'm going to vote for this bill because it gets us closer to that goal than what we had when we walked into this room this morning. What I am not going to do is go back to my district and tell my constituents that we have stopped Chinese, Iranian, or North Korean nationals from buying up land in Texas, because that would not be true. The intent of this House version of the Senate bill that we took up today kept persons from enemy countries from buying land here. With that bill, if you're from China, North Korea, or Iran and moved to Texas, you would not be able to buy land here. In contrast, the amended bill only keeps persons from enemy nations who are here in the U.S. illegally or who are foreign agents from buying land in Texas. But that's not what the Republican Party and our voters charge us with. They asked us to keep our enemies from those countries who have not attained U.S. citizenship or permanent legal status from buying land in Texas. That is a very different thing from the bill what this bill will achieve. We were told that this isn't a real issue because foreign agents would still be covered specifically by the bill. However, unless you are a really incompetent foreign agent, we probably don't know that you are one. And the state of Texas has no real apparatus to determine if you are a foreign agent at all. We would have to rely on the federal intelligence apparatus to make that determination. And I don't know if you all are aware, the federal intelligence apparatus doesn't care much about developing a good working relationship with state governments. I'm going to vote for this bill because it's a step in the right direction. But once again, this body has had a golden opportunity to pass exactly what our voters wanted, and once again, we passed something slightly less. Many of you all will go back to your districts and tell your voters that you checked off this legislative priority. But I strongly suggest you do not, because many of us will also go back and tell the truth about this bill to the good people of Texas.
Mr. Harrison, for what purpose?
Will the gentleman yield for a quick
Does
question?
the gentleman yield for questions?
I just want to make sure I understood something.
Gentleman yields for questions.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I understood something I heard in your statement, Representative Hopper. Does this bill, as amended / gutted, does this bill fully satisfy the directions of the Republican Party of Texas as detailed in their legislative priorities for us to do this session?
It does not.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members. I rise today to stand boldly, unapologetically, and unwaveringly against Senate Bill 17, with all the Republican-only amendments, a xenophobic, fear-fueled, freedom-crunching piece of legislation disguised as protection. Let's stop pretending. This isn't about national security. This is about scapegoating, silencing, and shutting out people who weren't born here, no matter how much they sacrificed to be here. This bill is a foreigner's forbidden, freedom-fearing, fact-free fantasy. It's nothing more than a red meat, right-wing, restriction-wrapped rejection of what this country actually stands for. Let me remind you, this country was founded on immigration. Immigrants didn't just build America, they are America. We're a nation of newcomers, and now we want to act brand new. Let's not rewrite history because it's convenient. The first settlers, many would argue, were hostile occupiers, not heroes. They didn't buy the land, they stole it. They didn't flee persecution, they brought it with them. So let's not get holier than thou about who's allowed to own that and who's allowed to own what. Now here we are, centuries later, passing bills that would let the government take land from someone who legally bought it just because of their immigration paperwork. That's not bold, that's bigoted. That's not strong, that's shameful. That's not Texas, that's tyranny. This bill creates a bureaucratic border wall around property ownership. It weaponizes where you're born. It punishes people for their passport. It targets them for their time zone. It makes your birthplace more important than your behavior. And let me break it down for you. If you're from a so-called hostile nation, even if you came here legally, even if you fled tyranny, even if you're teaching medical students, curing cancer, launching small businesses, or playing college athletics, you could still be banned from buying a home. That's madness. That's cruelty in committee substitute and Republican amendment clothing. And let's talk about home, Houston. Southwest Houston was saved by immigrants, saved when nobody else wanted to invest. Immigrants stepped in. They opened stores. They cleaned up blight. They created jobs. They gave loans when banks slammed the door. Now it's vibrant, vital, tax-generating treasure trove of culture, commerce, and community. And we're going to slap those same people in the face. We're going to say, thanks for saving our city, but you can't stay. We're going to say, thanks for paying taxes, but we'll take your land now. And now I found out this isn't just any bill. This is the governor's #1 priority. And wouldn't you know it, only Republican amendments are being accepted. This isn't a coincidence. This is coordinated. This is the ends justifies the means. This is silencing the opposition. This is tyranny dressed up in legislative language. This is not the kind of government America was founded for. This is the exact kind of government that the people on the Mayflower were trying to escape. And now we've become it. History is repeating itself. And it gets worse. This bill says if you're from the wrong country, you can't even own property. And at most, you can lease for 1 year. 1 year. Then what? Where are they supposed to go? Do they have to move to another apartment, another condo? Do they have to leave the state, the country? What happens when that lease runs out? You are leaving people in legal limbo. That's not order. That's chaos in policy form. This bill is a homeowner-hating, Houston-hurting, humanity-hallowing policy disaster. And while we're at it, let's talk about athletes. Let's talk about the college stars on NIL deals who came here from other countries to compete. Let's talk about international pros, tennis players, soccer players, Olympic hopefuls who train and live right here in Texas. Are we really going to tell them, you can play for our teams, make us money, win us championships, but you can't buy a home here? That's oxymoronic. Because when it comes to sports, Texas loves diversity. Texas accepts foreign talent. Texas profits from international excellence. Sports is the one place where y'all celebrate DEI. But now you want to pass a bill that blocks the very athletes who boost your brand. We're going to get left behind. The best won't come here. They'll go elsewhere where they're welcome, not where they were walled out. It's not just about who buys the land. It's about what kind of state we want to be. Do we want to be a state that says, show me your spirit, your sweat, your sacrifice, and we'll welcome you? Or do we want to say, show me your birthplace or else? This is the United States of America, not the segregated states of suspicion. We cannot claim to be the land of the free while legislating freedom away. We are not protecting Texas. We are persecuting immigrants and prosecuting them. We are not securing land. We are seeding lawsuits. We are not being patriotic. We are being petty. We've seen this movie before. We've heard these dog whistles before. And I, for one, am not going to sit quietly and go back to the days of coded exclusion and legalized discrimination and redlining. You can't chat Texas tough and then crumble under the pressure of xenophobic fear. You can't brag about being pro-business while blocking property rights for law-abiding people. And you definitely can't wrap your bigotry in the flag and call it patriotism. And let me make this plain. You can't spell land of the free with laws that lock people out. You can't say we welcome innovation while turning away innovators. We can't say we stand for families while making them homeless. This bill is not just policy, it's personal. It tells people that no matter how hard they work, how much they contribute, or how much they love this country, they'll never be good enough. Not because of what they've done, but because of where they came from. Well, let me tell you where I come from. I come from a city that thrives because of immigrants. I come from a district that was built by the hands of people who spoke 10 different languages and more than that, but dreamed the same American dream. And I will not vote for a bill that tells people they don't belong. So that every scientist, every student, every survivor, every athlete, collegiate or professional, and every soul who came here looking for freedom, I see you, I fight for you, and I will vote no for you on this bill. I proudly oppose this bill. So please, please, please vote against SB 17 and all those Republican amendments. Please, it's just a fair and American thing to do. Let's stop this bill, let's stop this madness, let's stop this hypocrisy before history repeats itself again. Thank you.
Mr. Vo.
Mr. Speaker and members, this bill harms innocent individuals who come to Texas seeking opportunity and safety. Those who come here to work or go to school, and those who are here granted refuge are caught in the crossfire of this bill. Let's be clear, these people are not enemies of the state. They came to Texas seeking the freedom and liberty this bill supposedly tries to protect. In fact, refugees and athletes have literally fled the oppressive regime this bill supposedly combats. I know, because I was one of them. It was only a week ago when all of you stood behind me as I spoke about how my family escaped a tyrannical regime in Vietnam, one that was no doubt considered a threat to America at the time. If SB 17 was law when I came to these shores, I fear that I would not have been able to buy the home that I raised my kids in. I would not have been able to buy the building where I started my first business. I would not have been able to live my American dream. Members, Texas should proudly welcome those who play by the rules, not brand them as traitors. That is why I urge you to vote against SB 17. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Ms. Button.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I wasn't planning to come out to speak. That's why I don't have a printed script. I just scribbled down some thoughts I want to share with you. I am for the bill. I am for the bill. Like whenever I heard somebody say that they are the 5th generation of Texans, and I always remind myself, I wasn't that lucky. America, Texas, is not my motherland. I'm an immigrant, but the America and the Texas, this is my chosen land. So I do understand why it is so important. We need to have national security and all those things to protect our freedom and democracy. This morning, Chairman Charlie Garrett said that to me, Angie, you are probably the most diligent state representative. And I was laughing. I said, well, then I bet there's somebody else work harder than I am. But I have to take this pride. I usually come here early to prepare myself because I know in this country you have given me so much, and I have to work harder than everybody else to prove, well, not really to prove, to demonstrate I am a proud American and proud Texan. But I do have to warn everybody, share the thought with everyone. 16 years ago, when I first started to run for the seat, because Senator Florence Shapiro called me up, she shared with me her experience of being a Jewish, and her parents are the Holocaust survivors, and they have those tattoos on their hands. And she said, Angie, no matter how far you're going to go, how high you're going to climb, if you don't have a political influence, you are nothing. The freedom, liberty, everything can be taken away from you. But I said, not in this country. This country is made of good people. This country is not perfect, but it would be kind of boring if everything is perfect. But I tell you, every day I just full of appreciation to serve and to be here. But I'm not going to blindfolded and tell you everything is perfect. 16 years ago, when I first knocked upon the doors, doing the block walking, I had people shut the door and say, I don't want to talk to communist Chinese. That was 16 years ago. But you know what? Even last campaign, at the early voting time, somebody drove through where I stood in front of the church and back off the car, rolled down the window. I said, oh, sir, you have a question for me? And he says, Angie Chen Button, Chinese communist. And I'm a lady, so I don't say that word, but it starts with a B, okay? Go back home. I just kind of smiled because we have several other people over there doing the early voting campaign. I said, I guess he didn't vote for me. Everybody just laughed. But you know what? This bill, our community, our Asian American community, do have a lot of concerns of unintended consequences. That's why my dear colleague, I call him my cousin, you know, Representative Matt Shaheen, because a lot of Asian Americans in my district, they made more money, they all moved to his district. And that's why he and I were standing here working on the amendment. I know not everyone has been supported, but majority of the Republicans as long as the Democrats all supported it, and I'm so appreciative. And some people say, well, they still have some concerns. And actually, earlier, my dear friend, Representative Chairman James Frank dropped by my desk. I said, I'm still worried about the unintended consequences. He said, well, don't worry about that. Russians, Americans, don't worry. And I look at him, I said, Russian Americans might look like you, but a Taiwanese American, a Chinese American, I don't look like you. Isn't that true? So I am supporting this bill because it is to protect our country's freedom, liberty, national security. But I do have to say that, please bear in mind, a lot of people still have that fear in their heart. So this morning, when I introduced the delegates from Taiwan, I was so happy and so proud of many of the colleagues from both sides came to shake their hands, like Ms. T visited Taiwan before. You know, that's all wonderful. But is this world perfect? No. We have to make choice. Once again, this is not my motherland, but this is my chosen land, and I'm here to protect the liberty and freedom of my chosen land. I'm for this bill.
Chair recognizes Mr. Moody.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I'm moved today to speak because this bill isn't just about today. What we're doing and what we're authorizing in the future has the potential to be very dangerous. And I recall when the committee was created over the interim, Chairman Hefner was assigned to chair that, to look into this issue. And I watched it. There was a great discussion about this last session. Had more discussion over the interim, so I kept an eye on it. Because the core principle of it, security, making sure foreign enemies don't take root in our state, that principle is something that we can all agree on. So I watched and heard the dialogue. And then this session, watched the bill get filed, committees formed, watched the hearing in full, a very long hearing. And I remember looking at one provision of the bill. The bill that gave untethered permission to add any country to this list. And I didn't make note of it other than to my staff in my office. I said, that's probably the most dangerous provision in there. I hope that comes out. And I just thought about where I come from. I live in the largest binational community in the world. El Paso and its sister city, Ciudad Juarez, sister city. Right? We call it that for a reason. I've heard it described by a poet as the two cities are lungs breathing in the same body. They rise and they fall together. There are 80,000, 90,000 people that live and work in El Paso, that live in El Paso that go work across in Juarez every day, and vice versa. There are Mexicans that own property in El Paso. They're business partners of the people in El Paso. They make our community thrive. $273 billion of Texas trade. with Mexico every year, our #1 trading partner. But I also know the rhetoric about Mexico that is spread across the state and this nation. And it is dangerous. And it encapsulates the entire country. Our sister city, our friends, our neighbors, our families. And I said, that's the most dangerous provision, because I can see a political world where Mexico gets added to this list because of the rhetoric that we've seen. And I was really glad that that provision wasn't in the bill as it came to the floor today. But not too long ago, it went back in. And maybe in Fort Worth, they don't see the neighbors that I see. They don't see the business partners that I see. They don't see the lifeblood of these communities working together. Maybe that's a foreign thing to people in Fort Worth, but it's not for me. That's my family and that's my home. And I believe in security. And I believe that foreign enemies shouldn't be able to buy Texas land. That's real, and that's very fair. But when you make that distinction, you need to be laser focused. Because the second you cross that line, you're not dealing with foreign enemies anymore. You're dealing with your neighbors. And that shouldn't be acceptable. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Dr. Lalani.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I will not make a big speech because you have heard both sides talk about for and against. But when I got elected last session, I was told by one of our senior members that whenever you vote, be very clear in your mind whom is going to be helping. But also think about if anybody is going to get hurt by this. So I'm going to ask people, this bill may have written in a good intent, but it's not going to help people, but it's going to hurt many people. So please vote your conscience and vote no. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Mr. Diallo.
A couple of things I like about this bill. I love the debate that we've had today and in the weeks and months prior, and all it took and all the input to get the bill to where it is right now. We have the blessing to live in a free society. And when you live in a free society, it makes it easier for your enemies to do things. This bill is trying to do something meaningful, substantive, with a net to catch these bad fish. And we've worked hard to make sure that we don't catch any good fish in this net. A little story. As I looked at this bill, I looked at my family. I'm the youngest of 5 boys. My parents and my 2 older brothers fled communist Cuba in 1960. My dad connected with the CIA, fought in the Bay of Pigs invasion. That didn't turn out so good. He finally made it home 6 months later and realized this isn't a temporary place, this is a permanent place. This is our home. Within 2 years, Russia, Cuba, remember, was pointing nuclear missiles at the U.S. In that time, Cuba would have been on this designated list. In that time, as this bill was written earlier on, my parents likely wouldn't have been able to own a home in this country because it took them until 1972 to obtain their citizenship. And the fact that we took the steps in this body to make sure that this net didn't catch those people. I take my hat off to each of y'all for doing that. This is a good bill, probably the strongest in the country. I ask that you vote for it, and thank you for your time.
Mr. Hefner to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I know it's been a long day. I'm reminded of how blessed we are and how grateful I am to live in a place where we can all participate in this process. We can all have our voices heard, and we can have the voices of our constituents heard. People don't get to do this all over the world. In most of the world, they don't get to choose their elected representatives. They don't have this debate. And I know it's messy and it's hard and it's long nights. And it's a messed up system a lot of times, but it's the best one in the world. I truly believe that. Members, this bill is not about the immutable characteristics of individuals. This bill is about the actions and the affiliations of individuals. Texas has always been a land of opportunity, welcoming those who want to contribute to our state, who want to build a future, and who want to call this place home. Senate Bill 17 upholds that legacy while ensuring our land remains secure in the hands of those who share our values and commitment to this great state. Members, this is the strongest bill in the country to protect our Texas people from hostile foreign adversaries. I move passage.
Mr. Bell, for what purpose?
Just a quick question for legislative intent.
Gentleman yield for questions.
I yield.
Gentleman yields for questions.
Thank you, Chairman Hefner. Home builders and other entities have expressed some concern that this bill could be interpreted to prevent Texas businesses from doing business with passive partners and joint ventures who have no control or ability to be involved in planning, design, and physical construction of projects, and who lack the ability to possess or control the property. My question to you is it the intent of this bill to prevent passive partners and joint ventures where those partners have no ability to purchase, acquire, and control the property?
No, this bill is only focused on those folks who may be, have a controlling interest or full ownership of an entity that may be controlled by a hostile adversary.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Move passage.
Question occurs on passage third reading. Record vote. Clerk, ring the bell. Mr. Wu voting no. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? There being 85 ayes and 60 nays, Senate Bill 17 passes to third reading.